I'm James Macari. I'm a photographer, and I have I think this year might have been my 10th year working for Sports Illustrated Swim, so I'm very honored to be there. What keeps me coming back to Sports Illustrated Swim? I mean, it's probably the most iconic brand in America, besides maybe one or two others, but in my eyes, it's the most iconic brand, and the team is a family at this point, and I will do anything for MJ. MJ and I aligned the second, I remember 10 years ago when I got a phone call from MJ through my agent and was like, are you interested in coming up and meeting her, meeting SI Swim? And of course I was like, I'm there no matter, just name the time and day and I'm there. And from the second MJ and I met, we just hit it off. We were on point for knowing the past of SI and knowing the future of SI. And every year MJ always comes with a new idea. She's always knowing what's happening in the world 10 years from now, 5 years from now. And it really started accumulating with the Ashley Graham cover. So Ashley Graham was the 2016 cover. And at that point, no one ever knows it's a cover, but MJ's like, I got this model, I got with the figure, it's a little different than what SI's been, where anyone has been. Fashion was never there. And she's like, how do you feel about photographing her? And I never blink when MJ says, what do you feel? I'm like, I'm there. Because I knew she's always at the forefront. Sports Illustrated Swim was at the forefront, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it. And I didn't change my way of approaching Ashley Graham. I approached it the same way I approach anyone else. It's just making beautiful images and making a woman feel beautiful and making a brand feel beautiful.
I am having a blast.
Like, everyone knows Ashley Graham now, but it was just an easy process, she did all the poses, she went for it.
She's the perfect SI girl.
I know!
And as we all know now, the whole world probably changed at that point in time in terms of body positivity, what fashion represents, what swim represents, and it's all history after that. I was always an artist growing up, but it was like sports and art. And so I went to the University of Oklahoma. I wanted to be a pole vaulter, and I didn't want to be an artist at some point. I think my father was petrified of me being an artist. He was into real estate and he's like, you're never gonna make it, please do something else besides art. And as all great colleges, they make you take these freshman courses where you just have to try everything. And I tried a photography course, and I had an amazing professor. And as soon as I developed that first image, as soon as I put the film through the camera and racked it and brought it out and hung it up and put it through the developer, I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. Like this speaks to me. And ever since then, I think I spent another year or two on the track team, and I was like, I'm done. I just want to be a photographer. I graduated, I think I went to see my parents for like a week, and I was like, I'm moving to New York. I went to New York with the idea that I was not gonna do anything but become a photographer. So I moved August 15th, which back in 1997 is possibly the worst time to move to New York City to find a job in fashion, because all the photographers were European or something, and they just took August off. And I did not know that coming from Texas, so nobody was around to answer these phone calls I was gonna make. So I just called and called and called, and I called Richard Avedon. I think it's just pure dumb stupidity of being from the South, not thinking, oh, anybody can just call Richard Avedon. And I called his studio and I said, oh, I'm James Macari, I'm just moved from Texas, I want to work for Richard Avedon. And they had just fired the third assistant at that time. And they're like, if you're apparently dumb enough to call this studio thinking you can get a job, sure, you might be, brave enough to make it. So I got an interview with the studio manager, and I got a job, and I worked my way up from there. I mean, the job was entailed of like opening up the studio, cleaning trash cans, ordering food. I could have cleaned windows all day long. I didn't care. As long as I was in the studio, I was gonna do it. Went to New York City knowing that I was gonna have no social life. I was not gonna know anybody. I could care less what it entailed. I just wanted to learn. I wanted more information. I wanted to know everything about fashion. I wanted to know everything about light, and I just sold myself to working until I thought in my eyes able to go off on my own and become a photographer. My father knew like one photographer, and Richard Avedon was the one photographer he knew. When I was like, I'm gonna go work for Richard Avedon, he was like, you know, maybe this is gonna work out for you, you know. So I've been very fortunate. I have never thought anything but how lucky I am. What am I most proud of in photography? The cover of Sports Illustrated Swim, the 50th anniversary. I will hands down say that might be my favorite thing I've ever done. I mean, growing up in Texas as a young boy, I've seen every Sports Illustrated, you know, and we all know like the stereotypes of it, but you know, the Kathy Islands, the Elle McPhersons, the chance to work with a brand like this and then to get the 50th anniversary, yeah, I mean, I would say that's the number one. I knew when we were in Atutaki that, okay, there's 3 girls all of a sudden, there's usually just 1 girl. There was a bigger team there. I knew that something was up. I knew that there was a lot of pressure on it. And then you have to wait, and you have to wait, and you have to wait. I was actually surfing in El Salvador with my family and my friends, and MJ's number came up. And I was like, as soon as I saw MJ's name come up, I was like, this could really be it. And she was like, you have the cover. I was like, wow. Like, I just remember, I even cried a little bit. I called my dad, I called my mom. Like, it was a cool moment. My father, I think that might be, of all the things I've done, my father was like, yes, you know, that was his special moment. We're gonna be all right, Dad, don't worry. Who do I look up to in the photography world? Walter Yos was always one of my idols. Like, he's not only taken maybe some of the most iconic portraitures in terms of athletes and athletics, but he's also done, I can't even probably count how many covers he's done for Sports Illustrated Swim, and I've always just wanted to be maybe like a 10th as cool as Walter, and being at my 10th year, I think I might be there, so if Walter's watching, I'm catching up, so thank you. Obviously, Richard Avedon was always a huge inspiration of mine, and then even Patrick Demarchelier. After Richard Avedon, I worked for Patrick Demarchelier, and opposite ideas of how photography works and how portraiture works. Avedon always had an idea of what he wanted the portrait to look like ahead of time. He studied his talent, he knew what they represented, and then he also knew what he wanted to put into his imagery. You see everything. You see the wrinkles, you see the heartbreak, you see the love, or you see the despair. And in Patrick's work, it's always beautiful, you know. Knowing those two styles, I think is important for me because, you know, sometimes you want to bring out something that's in deep inside somebody and they don't know it. So knowing how to like pull that out of somebody, Dick did that really well. And then knowing how to make someone feel comfortable and relaxed was Patrick's specialty. He could get a great portrait out of anybody, you know, even if they didn't want their picture, he would pull that Polaroid and they would be like, oh, thank you, you know, like, and they would just walk away happy. So I think those are two sides of photography that I appreciate understanding how to achieve. I think the list is probably like Annie Leibovitz. Like Annie Leibovitz to me, she's one of the first female iconic photographers out there. It wasn't just like the portraitures that you kind of know Annie Leibovitz know for the Vanity Fair. The way she started, she was on the road with Rolling Stone. She was like backstage and she took these just like spontaneous moments. She lived the rock and roll life, and those, for me, some of her early work is what inspired me in my earlier career. And so and she broke down doors for people, you know, like it's not easy, you know, being a female photographer in this kind of like male-driven world this whole life. And yeah, she broke down those boundaries, and you know, I always looked up to her. What do people get wrong about me? Ooh. I'm a little moody sometimes, I'll be honest. And as I explained to every client that I have worked with for 10 years or 15 years, they all understand me. If I get moody on set, it's not because like I'm angry, I don't want to be here. It's because the image for me is not perfect. And I think that's what people don't understand, is that if I seem tense or just not happy, it's because I'm not able to take a perfect picture. I'm not able to achieve what I want in my head. And so I show it like on the outside. And then I think they're like, oh, he seems so upset. Is everything okay? I'm like, no, it's just the image isn't perfect. Like I want to deliver If MJ wants 14 pictures, I want 14 perfect pictures for her. So if I get stuck on 7 and like the light's not right, and like I kind of walk away and like, oh, I'm a little angry. I'm not angry at anybody. I'm just angry that I can't deliver a cover. Like I just want every image to be a cover. So I think that's been difficult. And I have a great studio manager who's always like, she's always like, he's not mad. He's just, just let him have his moment. And MJ and all those other clients that I have, they're like, he'll be fine. Just give him 5 minutes, he'll be fine, And the people I work with always know, like, hey, how about we try this? And then they kind of click me out of that. And then, all of a sudden there's like this amazing moment. I'm like, oh, I feel good, because the image is there. I would never call any of my images masterpieces. I think they could always be better. I remember this, there's a very famous picture by Richard Avedon with Dovima, and Dovima and the elephants, and she's got like the gown. And for me, it's one of the more iconic, images of his lifetime. And he always is like, I wish that dress went like skirted out. I wish there was a little piece of wind that put it out. And I was like, wow, even you were like, I just wish the dress went that way. I'm like, okay. He's never happy. I probably will never be happy of like considering it a masterpiece. So no, I don't consider it a masterpiece. That's what gets you up in the morning, is that it needs to be better, And nowadays with the trends and the times changing, if you're not changing as a photographer, if you're not changing as a stylist or an art director, you won't be around next year. And that's it never happened. I feel like it happened in either years or decade change, and now it's like you have to be constantly thinking about, what are you saying with your imagery, who are you representing, what do you want to say, what's the feeling, who is your demographic. And if you're not constantly understanding how that's working, you'll be retired very soon. I'm excited about the future. Like, I think with all the movements and all the turmoil, there's been some really great things. Like, I think a lot of great photographers who never had the chance are now getting the chance. I think a lot of great models who never had the chance are getting the chance. Talent will always kind of like rise to the top. I was a little worried at the time where everything was like just flux and we want this and we want this. And I was like, sometimes I didn't know if people wanted me, and sometimes people understood my viewpoint. But, I trust myself. I trust my eye. I love taking beautiful pictures. I love putting people in beautiful light. I love having people leave my set and leave my workplace feeling like that was enjoyable. And I think if that's always there, then I think I'll be okay.